I stood outside the glass-walled conference room, holding my coffee like it was the only solid thing in my world, watching Hannah Doyle present my project. Not our project. Mine. The slides on the screen behind her were ones I had built at 2 in the morning 3 weeks ago, the data model I had coded alone in an empty office while everyone else was at happy hour. She stood there in her cream blazer with her hair pulled back in that confident ponytail, gesturing at charts she didn't understand, and smiled like she owned every pixel. The clients nodded. Our director, Connor Vale, leaned back in his chair looking proud. And me? I wasn't even invited. I found out about this meeting from a calendar notification that got forwarded by mistake. My name didn't appear on a single slide. Not once. Then Mrs. Rawlings, the lead client from New York, leaned forward and asked the question that changed everything. Can we speak with the person who actually built this model? Hannah's smile froze. Just for a second. But I saw it. 6 weeks earlier, none of this had felt possible. I had pitched a complete analytics overhaul to management, stood in front of Connor and 2 senior directors with a proposal I had spent months researching. They smiled politely and told me it wasn't the right time, that we needed to focus on current clients, that maybe next quarter we could revisit. I walked out of that meeting feeling small and stupid. That night, I called my father. He was a contractor who had built his business from nothing. Claire, he said in that calm, unshakable voice of his, if you can't open the door, build your own. So I did. I worked nights and weekends, stayed late after everyone left, built the entire model on my own time using my own research. I didn't ask permission. I didn't wait for approval. I just built it, piece by piece, until it was undeniable. By the time I was done, I had something nobody could ignore. The problem started small. Files I had saved in the shared cloud folder started disappearing. At first, I thought it was a system glitch. Then I noticed they were being moved, reorganized, renamed. When I asked Hannah about it during a team check-in, she just smiled that easy smile of hers and said, "Oh, I was just cleaning things up. You know how messy shared drives get." Connor nodded along like it made perfect sense. I started feeling paranoid, like I was imagining things. Maybe I was being too protective. Maybe I needed to be more of a team player. That night, I went home and second-guessed everything. But something in my gut told me to start paying closer attention. So I did. I started taking screenshots, saving copies to my personal drive, noting dates and times. I didn't know why yet. I just knew I needed proof that I had done this work. Something felt wrong. 2 weeks later, I opened the project file to add new data and froze. My name was gone. Completely erased from the author metadata. I scrolled through the revision history and found it had been manually changed. Hannah's name now appeared as the primary contributor. My chest felt tight. I walked straight to her desk, trying to keep my voice calm. "Hannah, why was my name removed from the project file?" She didn't even look up from her screen. "Claire, does it really matter whose name is on it? We're a team. Credit doesn't matter. Results do." I stood there, stunned by how casually she dismissed it. Connor walked by and heard the tail end of our conversation. "Claire, be more collaborative," he said lightly, like I was the one causing problems. That night, I started a private folder. Every timestamp, every version, every email thread. I saved everything, organized it by date, backed it up 3 different ways. If they wanted to erase me, they would have to work a lot harder than this. The invitation should have gone to me. I had built the model. I had done the research. I had written the documentation. But when Connor sent out the meeting invite for the big client presentation, my name wasn't on it. I only found out because Nina Archer, a junior analyst, accidentally forwarded me the calendar invite while asking a question about something else. "Wait, you're not going," she had written, confused. No, I wasn't going. Nobody had told me there even was a presentation. I watched from my desk as Hannah, Connor, and 2 senior managers walked into the glass-walled conference room with the New York clients. Hannah carried a leather portfolio I had never seen before. She looked confident, prepared, like she had been working toward this moment for months. Which, in a way, I guess she had. Just not in the way anyone thought. I stood up and walked closer, coffee in hand, watching through the glass. And that's when I saw my work on the screen. Every slide, every chart, every recommendation, all mine. Presented by her. Mrs. Rawlings was the kind of client who didn't waste time. Sharp suit, sharper questions, the type of person who could spot a fake from across a room. She listened to Hannah's presentation with her arms crossed, nodding occasionally but never smiling. When Hannah finished, Mrs. Rawlings flipped through the printed deck slowly, then stopped on a page showing the data architecture. "This is impressive work," she said. "Who built this model?" Hannah hesitated. "Just a second too long. Our team collaborated on it," she said smoothly. "I led the development process." Mrs. Rawlings looked up. "I didn't ask who led it. I asked who built it." The room went quiet. Hannah tried to recover, talking about team effort and shared contributions, but Mrs. Rawlings raised a hand. "We will not move forward with the expansion contract until we speak directly to the original developer." "Find them?" Connor's face went pale. Hannah's smile finally cracked. "And me?" I turned and walked back to my desk, heart pounding, and opened my evidence folder, because I knew exactly what was coming next. I didn't panic. I didn't march into Connor's office demanding justice. I just sat down and started pulling every piece of evidence I had been quietly collecting for weeks. Cloud revision logs showing exactly when I created each file. Email threads where I had sent drafts to myself for backup. Timestamps proving I was the only one working on the model during off hours. Version history showing Hannah had accessed my files exactly once, 3 days before the presentation, and copied everything into a new folder under her name. I organized it all into a single document, clean and factual, no emotion, just data. Then I forwarded a copy to my friend Kayla, who worked in employment law, with a note, just in case. "Don't open unless I ask." I didn't want to use it, but I wanted it ready, because I had learned something important over the past 6 weeks. The truth doesn't protect itself. You have to build the case before you need it. What Hannah didn't know, because she had never actually built the model, was that I had embedded a tracking feature into the analytics dashboard. It wasn't malicious. It was just good practice. Every time someone accessed the live model, it logged their user ID, timestamp, and what sections they viewed. It was designed to help us understand client behavior and usage patterns. But it also tracked internal users. And according to those logs, Hannah had only opened the working model twice. Once, 3 days before the presentation, when she copied my files. And once this morning, probably to prepare. She had never tested it. Never modified it. Never understood how it actually worked. Meanwhile, my user ID appeared on over 200 separate sessions, spanning 6 weeks of development. The system didn't lie. And when Ms. Rawlings inevitably asked for technical documentation and usage reports, that tracking log would tell the whole story. I didn't have to say a word. The data would speak for me. Nina found me in the break room that afternoon, looking nervous. She glanced around to make sure no one else was there, then whispered, "Claire, I need to tell you something." I waited. "I saw Hannah going through your files 2 weeks ago. Late at night. I was working late on something else and saw her screen. She was copying entire folders from your drive into hers." My stomach dropped. "Why didn't you say anything?" Nina looked down. "I was scared. She's tight with Connor. I'm still on probation. I didn't want to get involved." I understood that fear. I had felt it too. "It's okay," I said. "But if anyone asks you what you saw, tell the truth." She nodded, relieved. "I will. I promise." What she did was wrong. I believed her. And I made a mental note. When the time came, Nina would be a witness. Not because I asked her to lie, because she had seen the truth. Connor appeared at my desk later that afternoon, trying to look casual but failing. "Claire, can we talk in my office?" I followed him. He closed the door and sat down heavily. "Did you build that entire analytics model by yourself?" he asked. "Yes," I said simply. He rubbed his face. "All of it. Every single part." He looked genuinely troubled. "This is complicated." Hannah presented it as a team effort. The clients loved it. "We don't want to create unnecessary conflict right before closing a major contract." I just looked at him. "Connor, I'm not creating conflict. I'm stating facts." He shifted uncomfortably. "I'm asking you, as your manager, not to escalate this. We can sort it out internally after the contract is signed." I leaned forward slightly. "That depends entirely on how the truth is handled." His face went pale. He knew exactly what I meant. If they tried to bury this, I would make sure the clients knew everything. He nodded slowly and I walked out. The power had shifted. And he felt it. The email came the next morning. Subject line, private consultation request, Mrs. Rawlings. She wanted a Zoom call with me. Just me. 30 minutes. I accepted immediately. When I told Connor, he tried to insist on joining. I smiled politely and said, she requested a private call. I'll let you know how it goes. Hannah appeared in the doorway. I should be on that call, she said. I turned to her. Mrs. Rawlings asked for the person who built the model. That's me. I closed my office door. Literally. For the first time in 6 weeks, Hannah was the one standing outside looking in. I set up my laptop, checked my lighting and audio, pulled up my files, and waited. When Mrs. Rawlings appeared on screen, she didn't waste time on pleasantries. Ms. Harlow, I want to understand what I'm buying. Walk me through how this model works. I did. For 30 minutes, I explained every feature, every algorithm, every design choice. She asked technical questions that would have stumped Hannah in seconds. I answered every single one. At the end, she leaned back. Why weren't you in the first meeting? I paused. Then smiled, tired but honest. I didn't say anything. The silence said everything. Mrs. Rawlings didn't smile, but her expression softened slightly. I've been in business for 23 years, Ms. Harlow. I've seen a lot of things. This kind of thing more than I'd like. She leaned forward. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm formally requesting full project contribution logs from your company. User activity, version history, timestamps, everything. If this is your work, I want to make sure you're the one I'm partnering with going forward. My heart pounded. I appreciate that. I don't build partnerships on showmanship, she continued. I build them on competence. And from this conversation, it's clear who has it. The call ended. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the blank screen. Then I stood up, opened my door, and walked straight to Connor's office. He looked up, already looking worried. The client just requested full contribution logs, I said calmly. IT will need to pull everything. He closed his eyes. Claire. This wasn't my choice, Connor. This was hers. I walked out. Within an hour, the entire office knew. And the panic began. The formal request came through by end of day. Mrs. Rawlings' legal team sent it directly to our company's operations director, Noah Feldman. It was polite but firm. They needed complete documentation of project development, including all file activity, user access logs, version control history, and contributor metadata. It was their right under the performance-based partnership agreement. Legally, we had to comply. Noah forwarded it to IT with a priority flag. The request landed on Elise Braun's desk. Elise was our senior IT specialist, the kind of person who knew every system inside and out and didn't tolerate shortcuts. She was also someone I had helped once, fixing a reporting error that could have cost her a promotion. She remembered. Elise started pulling logs immediately. Cloud storage activity. File creation timestamps. Edit histories. User access records. It took her less than 2 hours to see the whole picture. And when she did, she saved everything to a secure folder, sent a copy to Noah, and sent me a single-line email. Truth has a timestamp. I knew exactly what she meant. Hannah must have realized what was happening because suddenly she was everywhere. At her desk frantically clicking through old files. In the shared drive trying to access folders she hadn't touched in weeks. I watched her from across the office, calm and quiet, as she spiraled. Elise watched too. From her workstation in IT, she could see every click, every search, every desperate attempt Hannah made to cover her tracks. And she documented all of it. Every failed attempt to modify revision dates. Every search for remove author metadata. Every frantic Slack message to Connor asking what she should do. By the end of the day, Elise had a secondary report ready. Not just the original evidence, but a record of Hannah trying to destroy it. That night, Elise sent her findings to Noah with a subject line that made my chest feel light. Per client request, complete project contribution analysis, confidential. Noah opened it at 8:47 p.m. I know because he called an emergency meeting for 9 a.m. the next morning. And this time, everyone was invited. The conference room was cold. Not temperature cold. Energy cold. Noah sat at the head of the table, Connor to his right, HR Director Paula Ness to his left. Elise sat near the back with her laptop. Hannah sat across from me, pale and stiff. Nina was there too, looking terrified. Noah didn't waste time. We have a situation that needs immediate resolution, he said. A client has formally requested documentation proving who developed the analytics model currently under contract review. He looked directly at Hannah, then at me. I'm going to ask one question. Whose work is this really? Hannah opened her mouth. I raised my hand. May I? Noah nodded. I opened my folder. No emotion. No anger. Just evidence. I pulled up the creation dates. The original drafts with my name embedded in the file properties. Email threads where I sent versions to myself at 1 and 2 a.m. Cloud logs showing I was the only active user during development. Then I showed the day Hannah copied everything. One single action. 3 days before the presentation. I didn't say a word. I just let the data speak. The room was silent. Noah looked at Hannah. Do you have anything to add? She didn't. She couldn't. The evidence was absolute. Hannah tried. She stammered something about collaboration, about how she thought it was a shared effort, about how she didn't realize my name wasn't included. But Noah cut her off. The version history doesn't show collaboration. It shows one person building something over 6 weeks and another person copying it in a single session. He turned to Elise. Is that accurate? Elise didn't hesitate. Yes. Claire's user ID appears in over 200 development sessions. Hannah's appears twice. Once when she accessed the files 3 days ago. Once this morning. Noah's jaw tightened. He looked at Connor. You approved the presentation. Did you verify who actually did the work? Connor looked like he wanted to disappear. I trusted Hannah's representation, he said weakly. That was a mistake, Noah said flatly. He turned to Paula from HR. Begin an internal review immediately. I want a full report on how this happened and what policies failed. Then he looked at Hannah. You're suspended pending investigation. Leave the building. Hannah's face crumbled. She looked at me, eyes desperate, but I didn't look away. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, calm. She gathered her things and left. The door closed behind her. The room exhaled. The next morning, Mrs. Rawlings arrived unannounced. Not on Zoom. In person. She walked into our office at 9:30 with her assistant and asked to speak with Noah immediately. I watched from my desk as she was escorted into the executive conference room. 10 minutes later, Connor was called in. Then me. When I entered, Mrs. Rawlings was standing by the window. She turned and looked at me for a long moment. Ms. Harlow, I've reviewed the documentation your IT department provided. Thank you for your honesty during our call. I nodded. She looked at Connor. I want to be very clear about something. I don't build partnerships on exaggeration. I don't work with teams that misrepresent contributions. I build on integrity. She turned back to me. Which is why I'm requesting that you lead the expansion project. Directly. With full decision-making authority. The room went still. Noah spoke first. We can absolutely make that happen. Mrs. Rawlings smiled slightly. Good. Then we can proceed. She shook my hand. For the first time in weeks, I felt the weight lift. Not because I won. Because the truth was finally visible. The rest of that day felt surreal. Connor avoided me. Noah called me into his office and offered me the lead role officially, with a salary increase I hadn't even thought to ask for. We failed you, he said simply. This should never have happened. We're taking steps to make sure it doesn't happen again. I accepted the role. Not because I wanted revenge. Because I had earned it. But I didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because HR was still moving slowly, trying to figure out how to handle Hannah quietly, trying to avoid making waves. And I wasn't going to let this get buried. That afternoon, I got a call from Paula in HR. She wanted to meet. When I arrived, she had paperwork ready. A settlement offer. A new title. A raise. And a non-disclosure agreement. We'd like to resolve this internally, she said carefully. Without making it a public matter. I looked at the NDA. Then I slid it back across the table. I want documented credit. Official authorship. A formal correction sent to the client and recorded in company files. Nothing less. Paula blinked. That's highly unusual. So is stealing someone's work, I said calmly. She paused. Then nodded. I'll see what I can do. Hannah cornered me 2 days later in the hallway near the elevators. Her eyes were red. She looked like she hadn't slept. Claire, please, she said, voice shaking. Please don't ruin my career. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Can't we just move past this? I stopped and turned to face her fully. For a moment, I felt something almost like pity. Almost. Hannah, I'm not ruining anything, I said quietly. I'm revealing what already happened. There's a difference. She started to cry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I wanted to be seen. I wanted to matter. Then you should have built something that mattered, I said. Instead of taking something someone else built. She looked at me like I had slapped her. I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. And I didn't look back. Because the truth was, I didn't hate her. I just didn't trust her. And in this industry, trust was everything. Once you broke it, you didn't get it back. Nina came to my desk that afternoon with a printed document. I wrote a statement, she said quietly, about what I saw, the night Hannah was copying your files. She handed it to me. It was detailed, specific, dated, signed. You didn't have to do this, I said. Yes, I did, Nina replied. Because if I don't speak up now, I'm part of the problem. And I don't want to be that person. I read the statement. It was clear, factual, and damning. Thank you, I said. She nodded. I'm scared, she admitted. But I'm more scared of staying silent. I forwarded her statement to Paula in HR with a single line, additional witness testimony, submitted voluntarily. Within an hour, Paula called Nina in for an interview, and the case against Hannah became airtight. Not because I destroyed her. Because she destroyed herself. And people finally stopped being afraid to say so. Elisa's report landed on Noah's desk the next morning. It wasn't just the file logs anymore. It was a full breakdown of what went wrong. How shared drive permissions had been too open. How Connor hadn't verified contribution records before approving the presentation. How HR had no formal policy for addressing intellectual theft. And how Hannah had tried to delete evidence after the investigation started. Noah called a meeting with senior leadership. I wasn't in it, but I heard about it afterward. He reportedly told them, we don't just have a personnel problem. We have a systems problem. And if we don't fix it now, we're going to lose more than one client. By end of day, new protocols were announced. All major projects now required documented contribution logs. Managers had to verify authorship before client presentations. HR was revising their policies on professional misconduct. And Connor? Connor was being reassigned. Not fired. But no longer managing teams. It wasn't enough to fix everything. But it was a start. The board review took another week. I gave my statement to Noah and the VP of Operations. I showed them everything, my emails, my drafts, my timestamps, my logs. I explained how I built the model on my own time after my proposal was rejected. How I had never intended to make it a big deal. How I just wanted to do good work. When I finished, the VP looked at me and said, "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" I paused. Because I didn't think anyone would believe me. And I wasn't wrong. That statement made it into the final report. The board didn't just address Hannah's actions. They addressed the culture that made it possible. And they offered me something I hadn't expected. A new role, senior analyst with oversight on data ethics and project attribution. It wasn't just about this project anymore. It was about making sure this never happened to anyone else. I accepted. Not for revenge. For change. The final meeting happened 2 weeks later. Small room. Just Noah, Paula, Hannah, Connor, and me. Noah read the board's findings aloud. Hannah had violated company policy, misrepresented work, and attempted to obstruct an investigation. She was being terminated. Connor had failed to properly oversee his team. He was being reassigned with a formal reprimand. And me? I was being promoted. Officially. Publicly. Hannah looked at me across the table. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice was small. I believed she meant it. But meaning it didn't undo what she did. "I accept your apology," I said. "But professional trust, once broken, doesn't reset. It rebuilds. With new people." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. She stood and left. Connor followed. And just like that, it was over. Not with an explosion. With quiet, permanent consequences. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post on LinkedIn. I didn't tell everyone what happened. I just started doing the work. I met with Nina and told her I wanted her on my team. I collaborated with Elise on building better tracking systems. I worked with Noah to create a mentorship program for junior analysts so they wouldn't feel invisible the way I had. Connor sent me an email asking if he could work under my supervision on a smaller project. I agreed. Not because I forgave him, but because I believed people could learn. And if he was willing to do the work, I was willing to let him try. The expansion contract moved forward. Mrs. Rawlings checked in personally to make sure I had everything I needed. The project launched successfully, and my name was on every document. Not because I demanded it, because I earned it. That was the difference. That was the victory. 6 months later, I sat in my new office reviewing the final report on the expansion project. It had exceeded expectations. The client was thrilled. The company was thriving. And my team was strong. I opened the contract summary one last time and scrolled to the final page. There, in small print at the bottom, was a line I had added myself. Model developed by Claire Harlow, built with integrity, tested with time. I didn't need my name in headlines. I didn't need revenge. I had something better. A reputation. The kind built on work, not words. The kind that didn't fade when the spotlight moved. Hannah was gone. Connor was rebuilding trust slowly. Nina was thriving. And me? I was finally doing the work I was meant to do. Not because someone gave me permission. Because I built the door myself. And when they tried to close it, the truth held it open. That's the kind of power you can't steal. You can only earn it. One honest day at a time.